Good evening and welcome to Current Issues. I'm your host, Hesham Tillawi. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we will be discussing the so-called Muslim rage. But before we actually start our discussion tonight, let me just remind everyone that this season we come to you twice a month on the first and third Thursday of every month. Now, next season, we'll probably come back on our normal schedule, being every Thursday. But this season, remember, every first and third Thursdays at 8 o'clock. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you have seen the pictures, you have seen the videos, you have seen the rage, you have seen it all. Muslims around the world are very upset with the United States, as if we needed to give them another reason to dislike us. But this time, really, it's amazing. Number one, personally, I think the reaction that we have seen on the streets of Muslim cities is wrong. I wanted to see this reaction when the United States went and killed 1 million Iraqis. I wanted to see that reaction when the United States bombed the heck out of Afghanistan, when it went and actually meddled in the affairs of Libya. I wanted to see this reaction for something that the United States government actually did. I wanted to see this reaction when the United States very much gave Israel everything it wanted. But we did not see that reaction. And that's really a big reason for Muslims to go, and it's a legit reason for Muslims to go out and be mad at the United States. That's what I wanted to see Muslims being enraged about. The killing of 1 million Iraqis. The meddling in the affairs of the Arab countries. The bombing of Afghanistan and Pakistan. The killing of Muslims, period. But they did not. Did we have any attacks on any United States embassies around the world in the last 10 years? No. 11 years since 9/11? No. But now people are jumping the walls on these embassies and taking down the flag and burning the American flag, etc., in a rage that we never seen before. Now, what's the cause of that rage? Before we actually get into the cause of that rage, which most of you know that it's about a stupid movie, I'm not even going to mention the name of this movie, but it's a stupid movie, and the reason I call it stupid movie because it is. Now, this movie was not made in Hollywood by big name directors and big name actors, and it did not, the budget of this movie, now at first the producer said it cost $5 million. I really doubt if it cost $500, because it was, like I said, stupid movie. But before we get into how do we see those people on the streets of Muslim countries and Muslim cities, and before we try to understand their rage, well, let's make sure that we are basing our references on something or similar references to theirs. Because in the United States, and mainly in Western countries, now it didn't used to be this way, but now if you see a movie about Jesus, which Hollywood did make some movies, some horrible movies, bad movies about Jesus, and no one said anything. And why? Because people have gotten to actually this thing called freedom of expression. or freedom of speech. So now Hollywood can do anything it wants about Jesus. Now this is not, this is like seen out of that. Okay, this was done in Hollywood. This is supposedly Jesus. Nobody was enraged about it. This was produced in Israel, and this was supposedly Jesus, and no one said anything about it. Now, if those scenes were about the Prophet Muhammad, then yes, Muslims will be enraged. You know, I've seen the video of this particular picture that you are seeing here, which was produced in Israel, and it was horrible. But Christians did not do anything. But yet we have this stupid movie that someone made. It probably cost $500 to make, and we do have some pictures out of that particular movie. These are supposed to be actors. Now, I've seen some scenes out of this movie. Those people, they're not good enough, and this was the man who actually played the Prophet Muhammad in this stupid movie. Now, the set for this movie was probably someone's garage or a very small studio, because everything was done through green screens. Now, what a green screen is something, I don't know if you can see behind me. Take the picture behind me, please. Take it out. Take it out. And behind me, there is a green screen that we can put through the computers. We can put anything we want, and it would look like I'm actually sitting there. So we can change these pictures behind us, and that's exactly what this movie has done by putting some scenes out of the desert in front of these stupidly acting actors, and that's what got the Muslims very upset. Now, I guarantee you, most Muslims who were enraged, I guarantee you they did not see the movie. They did not see the movie, but yet it made them mad. Now keep that in mind. Keep in mind that this movie was out in July. Now let's get back into trying to understand their reaction. Now, different cultures react to things differently. Muslims defend their religion with their lives. Now, Christians used to do this. Christians used to die for their religion. If someone attacks their religion, they used to die for it. Not anymore, because times have changed. Cultures have changed. Now, in some countries, if you try to attack the Christian religion, Christians will go out in the streets and actually do exactly what you see Muslims doing. Maybe in the United States it's not going to happen, but in other cities and other countries, like in Africa, for instance, if some Muslim community does something against Christians, even if it's a movie, you're going to see Christian reactions, exactly what you are seeing in the Middle East and in some of these Muslim countries. So somebody understands the mentality and the psyche of Muslims. Somebody understands how they react to things. Somebody understands that given the right circumstances, you will have enraged Muslims on the streets. Now, if I ask you, what is the mental picture that you have in your head When we say a Muslim, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Now, we're going to tell you, and I'm sure you will say that we're correct. Now, this right here, now if we say Muslims, and what's the image of a Muslim or a Muslim woman, that's what you're going to get. Even though those women who wear this in Islam, very, very small, very small. Now, I'm not saying that they're right or wrong. We're not saying that, but I'm saying in your mind, the mental picture for a Muslim woman is probably that one that you just saw a few minutes ago. Now, what about when we say, how do you imagine Muslims? It's going to be exactly like these figures that you will see here in a second. That's how the mental picture that you have for Muslims. Screaming, shouting, burning flags. That's the mental picture that you have in your head, and that's the mental picture that they want to revive in your head. And that's exactly what they want. Now, what did Newsweek do actually? Well, we're going to show you what Newsweek did. You know, they went and took probably the ugliest picture around, and they put it on the front cover, and they called it Muslim Rage. Now, what kind of mental picture are they trying to drill in your head? Number one, these people who came out in these capitals, they don't represent all Muslims. As a matter of fact, the majority of Muslims are against people going out there and reacting the way they're reacting. Again, the majority of Muslims are not of that view. Well, then let's get back to then who understands how Muslims react? Somebody does. Someone who apparently wants to keep the image of Muslims in your head, the images that you are being bombarded with in the last few days, which is Muslims enraged, burning flags, destroying things, climbing up the walls of embassies, etc., etc. But they're not showing you the other Muslims. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that these people, these Muslims, should not be in the streets defending their religion and defending their prophet if somebody actually insulted him or attacked the religion. They have every right to be angry. I understand that. Maybe you don't understand that because of this cultural difference, but I understand both cultures, so I understand that. Because Muslims will defend to death, actually, their religion. So somebody understood that. That movie was made in the United States. Well, somebody said it was actually filmed in Holland. But the producers and the money and everything was done right here in the United States. Now, some people saying that originally, at first, they said it was actually an Israeli who produced it. And then all of a sudden, even after everybody was talking about an Israeli who actually produced this movie, then they started retracting that story and started saying, no, it was this Coptic Christian from Egypt. Now, there are some people who are involved in this, like for instance, one of the people that they have talked about, some guy named Morris Sadiq or Sadiq. Now, he is a Christian Copt Now, Copt are these Egyptians who prescribed to the Christian religion. And so this guy, I mean, we see him here in New York demonstrating against the mosque that was to be built over there. Now, this guy has connections with the far right Zionists. This here was during a demonstration, and as we see, now the guy next to him, who's an Israeli, and he's the one that everybody says he actually produced the movie. Now we can see the Israeli flag in his hand. So there is a connection between this Egyptian guy and the Israeli producer of the movie. And of course, who doesn't know Terry Jones and Terry Jones's connections to the Zionists and to Israel. So there is definitely an Israeli element in here, and all major networks were talking about this Israeli who actually produced this movie. And then they retracted it. Now the scapegoat is a guy named Nicola, who is an Egyptian Christian who actually worked on the set. He was the logistics officer or logistics manager of the movie. Now, this guy that they are claiming that he produced the movie, even though he's saying, no, it's not me, I'm not the producer. Now, this guy is a convicted felon, money fraud, banking fraud, credit cards, and other people's names that he had used. He used many aliases. He's broke. He's a con artist. He's a crook. And he's living off of other people's money. So this guy does not have the resources to actually do something like this. But it was done. It was done. Now, originally, actually, we do have one of the actors who, actresses, her name is Cindy. She lost her, she sued to have YouTube take, there was a trailer, like a 14 minutes trailer on YouTube that it's still up there. Now, this actress, this is what she says. And all the actors on this movie, this is what they said about the movie. We went to work on this movie. They told us that this movie was from like the era of the movie, like 2,000 years ago. So they thought they were acting scenes from like the time of Jesus. And actually in the movie, none of the lines said anything about Islam and Muslims. Now, if we can show some of the pictures that we have for this movie, now you will see that it could also be taken as a movie out of something to do with Jesus 2,000 years ago. And there was one with a tent, if you can find that one. Yeah, this one. So these actors, they thought they were actually doing a movie out of, I guess, Moses era or something, or Jesus era. So the producers, after they finished with the movie and the storyline that these actors have actually acted and performed, they dubbed it in Arabic to say completely different things than what the storyline was and than what these actors actually acted. You following? So Cindy, she actually sued because that's not what she did. That's not the movie she did. But she lost. She lost. because a judge in California said that she did not show enough, I guess, reasons to remove this movie out of YouTube. Okay, fine. So the movie continued to be on YouTube even after thousands and hundreds of thousands of people complained to YouTube. See, I had some videos were taken out of YouTube because some people thought they were offensive, especially when it talks about the Jews and it talks about Israel. And I had some of my videos actually removed from YouTube when a couple of people complained. But yet, you have hundreds of thousands of complaints, and YouTube says that we believe in freedom of expression. Well, let's read YouTube policy. It says we encourage free speech and defend everyone's right to express unpopular points of view. But we don't permit, okay, underline this one, we don't permit hate speech, speech which attacks or demeans a group based on race or ethnic origin, religion, underline that, religion, disability, gender, age, veteran status, and sexual orientation, gender identity. So, if they don't permit hate speeches based on religion, what do you think this movie was all about? Wasn't this movie about hate speeches? If those Muslims got out on the streets when most of them only heard of what this movie actually said about Islam and about the Prophet Muhammad. I've seen part of that movie, and I can tell you it's a hell of a lot more than just hate speeches. But yet, YouTube, I guess because it was founded by two Jews, and now it was bought out by Google, which is owned by Jews, and because this major calamity that is going on in the Muslim world, it's producing benefits for Israel, they kept it on YouTube. You following? So YouTube will remove, you go there, complain about a couple of videos, get 3 or 4 people to complain, they will remove the video. But you have hundreds of thousands of people who actually did complain, and YouTube did not move that. Even after the riots, they did not do it. Now, when those countries where the riots are going on, they actually threatened YouTube that we're going to put a ban on you in our countries forever. So what YouTube did is it removed they programmed it where it won't show in those countries. So anyone in those countries that threatened, actually were like 4 or 5 different countries in the Middle East, that YouTube had actually banned the showing of these videos, but it's still showing all over the world. Why? Why? See, I would say this is not a scene out of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, era. It's more, these actors, they're dressed more like a Christmas movie or something. You might be expecting to see some Mary and the baby. Now, again, the movie was shown, it came out on YouTube in July. No one knew about it because it was not designed to be shown here in the United States. That was not the intention of those people who made the movie. See, it wasn't until it was dubbed into Arabic, the storyline changed, or lines changed, and they added the blasphemous material and the storyline that got Muslims enraged. Now, who did that? It wasn't Barack Obama. It wasn't the American government. The American government did not know anything about it. But yet, the American government did not come out because we are in a political season. It's an election year. And everybody is catering to Israel, so everybody is watching what they say about Muslims. You see, Barack Obama could not apologize for that movie. His first statement, which was not an apology, but yet the other camp said it was an apology and came out in force bashing Muslims, the Romney camp. And the Romney camp got on their high horse of protecting Israel and talking about Israel and talking about who our friends are and talking about actually cutting off foreign aid to countries that has these demonstrations in them, and their stupidity, even with Rand Paul too. They said we need to cut off aid to Libya. Libya? Since when do we give aid to Libya? We don't. So there's a lot of stupidity going on when it comes to Muslims, Israel, this particular movie, the election. This whole thing is happening at the same time. Now, so whomever took this movie, see, it doesn't matter if this movie was good, bad, or ugly, if it cost $20 billion or $20. If the news went out that there was a movie in the United States that said such and such and such and such things about Islam, about Muhammad, about the religion, you're going to have that reaction. And if it was produced in the United States, then the United States is responsible for it. Now, you and I, we understand that, look, the government of the United States cannot be responsible for every idiot out there who has a webcam or a cam and takes pictures and makes a movie out of it. And that's exactly what happened. But there should have been a statement coming out of both camps, Romney and Obama. Not to apologize, because you only apologize for something that you did. You don't apologize for something that an idiot does. But you can come out with some statements of support that we do not condone such a thing. That's what you come out with. And then you don't hide who's behind it, but actually you go back and you find out what exactly happened. Because this was not a mere hatred of Islam and Muslims, no. This was done by somebody who wanted that reaction to get the views and the pictures that you have seen in the news. To get these pictures that we are about to show you. That's the pictures, that's the images that they want to get to you to basically keep you thinking that these people are out to get you. An image like this, look at this. Fire, the American flag, people screaming. That's the images that they want you to see. They want you to see those images of screaming people. people who are out to destroy you. Now, who wants to do that? Who wants to get you? See that? Who wants to get you to fear this guy behind me? And think, I need to go kill him on his streets before he comes over here and kills me. Now, who wants to do that? It's not this guy. This guy was merely reacting to something that happened to his religion. But somebody wants you to see that image. Somebody wants you to see the videos. Now, we did not show you videos. We just wanted to show you some pictures that you have seen already. Who? Who wants you to think it's okay for our army, our military, to go and destroy Muslim countries and to go and destroy these people with these images? Because to you, that's the image of a terrorist, and we are at war with the terrorists, and therefore we should go and kill those people. Now, who wants to put Muslims and Christians against each other for his own benefit? Because this is not benefiting the Christians and it's not benefiting the Muslims. This will only benefit only one country and one country only. The country that wants to go and destroy another Muslim country, which is Iran. Now, who wants us to go and destroy Iran? You see, they wanted us to go and destroy Iraq back in 1996. Prime Minister Netanyahu was the Prime Minister of Israel back then, and his cronies wrote the clean break document that actually said the destruction of Iraq is an Israeli objective in its own right. They tried to get President Clinton to go there and do it. He told them no. Now, maybe he told them no because he was of the wrong party, he was of the wrong ideology, he was a Democrat, they were Republicans, because everyone who wrote that document, the clean break document back in 1996, and wanted the United States to go and destroy Iraq back then, it was Paul Wolfowitz, Douglas Feith, Richard Perle, mainly the ones, Donald Rumsfeld, Dick Cheney, the ones who became in the first George Bush administration. Now, they tried it in 1996 and they tried to influence President Clinton. He did not do it. He told them no. Because they were not in policy-making positions at that time. They were not in the White House. They were not in the Pentagon. They were not in the State Department. They were not anywhere. They were just out there planning and designing their project for new American century. What they want, they were thinking about that, and comes the year 2000, they gave us the project for a new American century, which is preemptive strike. Paul Wolfowitz, Douglas Feith, that's what they wrote. That if, now what is the Bush doctrine? Remember, Sarah Palin was asked, what is the, I think by Brit Hume, if I'm not mistaken, what is George Bush's doctrine? Well, it's the preemptive strike. Now, what does that doctrine say? It says, and these people wrote it, the neocons. Most of them are Zionist Jews, by the way. Okay? Most of them. Not all of them, but most of them. They said preemptive strikes, if we, the United States, think that somebody is thinking, they don't have to be doing anything and we don't have to prove anything that they're doing, but if we think that someone is thinking about harming us, then we take that as if it was certain, and we go and destroy these people. So they lied to you and said, he has weapons of mass destruction. You did not know that actually the destruction of Iraq and Saddam Hussein regime was written by these people back in 1996, way before 2011. And 2011 had nothing to do with Iraq, but yet on September 12th, 2001, The decision was taken by President Bush one day after 9/11. Richard Pearl met in the morning with the president, and the decision was made to go and attack Iraq. George Tenet, the CIA director, went on September 12, 2001 to the White House to brief the president of what he knows. Going into the White House, he met Richard Pearl, coming out, a Zionist Jew. Now, we're not calling him names, but that's what he is. He looked at George Tenet and said, Iraq must pay for this. He looked at him and was like, what is he talking about? He went to the Oval Office and the president told him, prepare to invade Iraq. You get the picture? Good. So they did it when George Bush was in office. They made some lies about Saddam Hussein having weapons of mass destruction, and you accepted because they were showing you images of Muslims just like that. Remember the Muslims jumping through hoops, fires, dressed up like Muslims? Now, every time you see a Muslim dressed up like that, even though most Muslims, the majority of Muslims in the world, they don't dress like that. But you don't see them. Because that's not the image they want you to know. This is the image they want you to know. This is the image they want to drill in your head so you can fear these people. And then somebody triggered the reactions that we have been seeing in the last few days, the reactions of Muslims, especially Newsweek. Put the Newsweek on. This is the best example of how the media manipulates you. Now, it wasn't just Newsweek that did this. All of them did this. All of them went and got the most horrible, frightening image to bring you. Or there were hundreds of images. Now, the Muslims reacted. Now it's your turn to react. See, now the Muslims reacted. It's your turn to react. Now, how are you going to react when fear, the fear factor, is the only factor that's going to go through your head? You know how to spell fear? F-E-A-R. I spell it in 4 words. False evidence appearing real. And that's exactly what you are seeing. False evidence appearing real. And when Israel says we need, and when Israel drags the United States into attacking Iran, you're going to be on board with it. Because you're going to be going to kill those people that they have these images. You know, you have these talking heads on Fox and CNN and all the other networks telling you how horrible these Muslims and what they think about you. Hey, the United States been killing Muslims for 11 years. Constantly. Constantly. In Iraq alone, they killed over 1 million Muslims. We didn't see any Muslim armies coming across the ocean to revenge their deaths. Have we? Our drones are flying all over Pakistan and Afghanistan. We haven't seen any. On the contrary, everybody in those Muslim countries, if they get a chance to actually come to the United States, they will. I guarantee you most of those people on the street capitals of those countries, If they have the opportunities to come to the United States for better life, to improve their lives, I guarantee you they will. Now they are enraged because of what happened to their religion and their prophet. That's how they react. And the people who took that movie and took advantage of it designed it from the beginning, because you know something? They're trying to blame it on this Coptic guy in Egypt, or from Egypt, who supposedly hates Muslims. Let me tell you something. If that was the case, this guy must be the most stupid person on earth, because if he did that, the Christian minority in Egypt will be slaughtered. But see, Muslims, they understand that. And they have lived with Christians for the last 1400 years. They lived as brothers. Muslims and Christians have lived together for 1400 years in Palestine, in Jordan, in Egypt, in Lebanon, everywhere. Some of my best friends back home were Christians. We did not look at each other as you are a Muslim, I'm a Christian. We did not. We looked at each other as human beings, as friends. That's how we looked at each other. And that's how most Muslims look at people right here in the United States. They don't look at people as you are my enemy. These people were angry. These people were angry for what took place. Now, because of the reaction that our government has done, those people think that the United States actually agrees, the government and the people. You see, you did not see this movie and you don't want to see it. But actually, you know, like we said, Google refused to remove it. Even after all the killings, after all the riots, after everything that happened, after everything that took place in the world, Google said, oh, no, that's freedom of speech, that's another point of view. Well, what about all these videos that they have removed? What about all these videos about the Holocaust? You see, the Holocaust. The Holocaust is something that is being disputed all over the world from scientists. And the Holocaust, it's only, what, 60 some years ago? So we still have records, printed records on typewriters of what took place. We have pictures of what took place during the Holocaust. The places are still standing, but yet you cannot say that I don't believe in the Holocaust. In some countries you go to jail. So in some countries, and Google, if you put something about the Holocaust and you deny the Holocaust, etc., or something about the Jews, they're going to take it out. But because this was serving the purpose that Israel wanted, to get the United States upset enough at these images, see, it's just like what happened in 9/11. They dragged the United States. Isn't it amazing that we still don't even know what happened on 9/11? Isn't it amazing that we don't know what role Israel, no, we do. And you, as one of our viewers for the last 10 years, you know. You know about Israel's involvement in 9/11. You know why we were dragged to go kill Iraqis, that they did not do us any harm. You know why. If you've been following us in the last 10 years, then you know why. But now, see, back then until now, no one even dares to say, what role did Israel actually play in 9/11? Why did we catch a bunch of Israelis on 9/11 in a van with explosives in it under the Washington Bridge? And they came out of the van telling the cop that stopped them, it's not us you want, it's the Palestinians. We're your friends, we're Israelis. With explosives in their van. But we never actually, the commission, the 9/11 commission, the 5 Republicans, 5 Democrats who sat around and said, hey look, don't blame me, I won't blame you, let's blame the Muslims. We never investigated what role Israel played in 9/11. And I haven't seen anyone, and no one is going to stand up and actually say, hey, what about these reports who said Israel was involved in the making of this movie? Who's going to stand up? Mitt Romney? Mitt Romney is the one that is bending over to please the masters in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. He's not going to stand up and say, well, let's see what role Israel played in this. Or is it going to be Obama? No. No. They got our system of government. They control our system of government. And if they control our system of government, they control your brains, because their media is what drilling this stuff in your head. You get the picture, hopefully, that somebody understands how Muslims react. They got that reaction. Now don't worry about, like I said, United States embassies were not even attacked in the middle of the war when we were killing Iraqis, like they are, I don't know. I don't want to say anything derogatory against the Iraqis, but we're killing a bunch of them, and we did not see those United States embassies being attacked. Somebody is paying money to get these people out. Now, is our government here in the United States strong enough to actually investigate that angle and say, well, wait a minute. Now, who wants us against these people? Who want Christians in the United States to be mad and angry at these Muslims? And who wants these Muslims in these countries mad at the United States? Why? Well, let's see who benefits. Well, it's not going to take you long to figure out that Israel actually wants us to go and attack Iran. So this is 9/11 part 2. The 9/11 the attack on the embassy in Benghazi in Libya, where our ambassador, Christopher Stevens, was killed. Now, Christopher Stevens was told what was going on in Benghazi, and his trip to Benghazi was in secret. No one knew, well, somebody did, and it wasn't those people on the streets. Somebody from within our side knew where the ambassador is. And then when the ambassador went to a safe house, and I'm assuming many of you saw the movie Safe House, because in almost every country there is a safe house that our diplomats would go to when they are attacked or when they fear for their lives. He went to that safe house. Somebody knew where the safe house was. Now, who knew where the safe house was? The people who were rioting on the streets? Of course not. And then they started bombing the consulate. They started bombing the safe house. Now, and the Libyan government is saying this was a coordinated attack. This was a military-style attack by people who have the right weapon, by people who have staged this, by people who actually set up their equipment for the right moment when the ambassador comes in. Now, who knew where our ambassador was? Who knew where what he was doing? Who knew? Who? It was not the people riding on the streets because of this movie. But yet, our own government, even though the government in Libya is saying, look, this was planned way before 9/11. This was planned way before we actually, people heard about the film. But our own government actually is insisting that what happened with Christopher Stevens and the people who were with him actually was a, a spontaneous attack by the people on the streets. So the people on the streets had what? Hand grenades and rockets, launchers in their back pockets? They just pulled it and started? No. They did not even know the ambassador was there. So who did that? Who orchestrated that on 9/11? To keep 9/11 alive, to keep the image of a terrorist alive in your head. And by the way, you probably did not see that many people in the Muslim world were very upset when the ambassador died. But you did not see that. You know, people in Libya, some people in Libya, they liked the guy. Now, some people actually, you know, they were happy, not because Christopher died, but because an American ambassador died, because they don't believe in the United States. They don't believe in the policy of the United States, and they thought that the United States got what it asked for. But it wasn't by those people. And our government is refusing to actually investigate who killed the ambassador. They don't want, because, let me tell you why. It's very simple to blame it on these people on the street. It's very simple to say, oh, it was a day of rage and they killed the ambassador. No. Because if they go the other way around and they start investigating, well, who was behind this military attack on 9/11? Because that attack was independent of the riots on the streets. That attack was going to happen regardless if there was a movie or if there was not. That attack on 9/11, they wanted to get in your head that Al-Qaeda, which never existed except in your head, they want you to think that these people are still out there, so our military will still have to be out there killing these people. For who? For Israel. Let's go down the line. We had an Iraqi army that was supposedly enemy of Israel, destroyed. A Libyan army that supposedly was an enemy of Israel, destroyed. Egypt, which supposedly was an enemy of Israel, but they had a peace agreement, so the Egyptian army, which is the largest army in the Middle East, taken out with this peace treaty thing. The Yemenis, taken out. Now the last one, which is Syria, and that's what they are after. So once they destroy the Syrian army, then no more armies around Israel. Now, does this need like a rocket scientist to understand what's going on? Now, Israel could not actually accomplish all this. And they said back in the 1980s, we cannot destroy our enemies with classical ways. We've got to work, and they did the plan. But who executed the plan for them? The United States. Because the United States has the power to influence politics in the region, has the money to spend. Well, we don't have the money, but hey, you know, somehow the Federal Reserve Bank keeps giving us some money. They just print money. And who controls the Federal Reserve Bank? Oh, well, you got it. Anyway, so I hope that we have at least got you to understand what is going on, that these people out there, they don't necessarily hate the United States and its people, but they hate the actions. And the way they reacted, that's how Muslims react when you attack their religion. Christians used to do that. Good night. We'll see you next Thursday.